Hey creeps, it's Cameron again, and welcome back to my channel where I talk about books, movies, writing, and all things spooky. Back for another book haul. I know, I just posted a book haul just a couple days ago, but after I filmed that haul, I wound up going to my favorite bookstore, which is just a couple towns away from me, and found out that they were having a sale. Now this is the store where I have bought most of my horror paperbacks, but they also have a bunch of really nice hardcovers, and every time I go there I'll buy a couple of hardcovers, but usually I settle on the horror paperbacks because they're only $2.50 a piece and I can buy a lot more with the money. But just a couple days ago when I went there, one of the guys who works there told me that they were having a sale on all of their books. Instead of the paperbacks being $2.50 and the hardcovers being priced $5, $6, $7, $8, everything was $2.50, including the hardcovers. So I bought a lot. Also, I don't buy books unless they're first edition. I'm very picky about that. So minus like one or two, all of the books here are first editions and they're all in fantastic condition. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get into this because there's a lot to show you here. First up, I have a few books by Saul. Now they have a ton of Saul there and I want to go back and get the rest of them. But I just picked up these three for now. The first one is a first edition of The God Complex, and this is in great shape. It's like brand new. It was originally $7. I got it for $2.50. I also picked up this very nice first edition copy of The Guardian, as well as this very nice signed hardcover copy of Black Creek Crossing. This next one is one that I was in shock to find at this bookstore. I had never seen it there before, and to be getting it for $2.50 was crazy. And that is Dreamthorpe by Chet Williamson. This is a first edition hardcover copy published by Dark Harvest Press. As you can see, it is a gorgeous book. It is bound in, I believe, buckram, and it has a sewn binding as well as a lot of really nice illustrations scattered throughout. This isn't the signed limited edition of the book, but that being said, it is still a pretty rare book. I've been watching it on eBay, and I think it's been about $30 usually, so the fact that I got it for $2.50 blows my mind. Next, I have a couple of limited edition Ray Garton books. These don't pop up very often. I rarely see Ray Garton books out in the wild. The first one is called Lot Lizards, and as you can see, it's a vampire book. Checking out the end papers, those are awesome. I love the lizards there. And as you can see, it looks like it's bound in buckram, and it has the lizards along the side there, which is very nice. It is also illustrated, has some pretty cool punk rock looking illustrations. And next we have Trade Secrets, a modern melodrama by Ray Garton. Looking inside, it's got a really cool, weird illustration of this girl who looks to be a vampire. The book itself is bound in cloth. It's very, very nice. I also have a nice, healthy stack of Anne Rice. These are all first edition hardcovers, beautiful condition, brand new, so I'm very happy to find these. The first one is, of course, Queen of the Damned by Anne Rice. It's the third book in the Vampire Chronicles series. Tale of the Body Thief, as well as Lasher by Anne Rice, which is one of the books in the Mayfair Witches series. Another one from the Vampire Chronicles, this is the Vampire Armand, which I have a copy of already, but it had some water damage on it, so I went ahead and picked up this. I also have Pandora by Anne Rice, very tiny little book, and Blackwood Farm. Here we have a book by Dan Simmons. This is called Fires of Eden. A very nice first edition copy. And this book is very curious to me. It is called Dracula Was a Woman in Search of the Blood Countess of Transylvania by Raymond McNeely. I had just heard about this book on the YouTube channel Hey Little Thrifter. Alex on that channel was recommending some of her horror, macabre themed coffee table books and nonfiction books, and she recommended this one. And literally the day I watched that video, I went to this bookstore and found a copy, which was awesome. This is a book club edition. It's not a first edition, but I was still very curious to read it. And I love the cover, and also I love that author photo. Next are a few books by Bryan Lumley. Now, I have not read any of Bryan Lumley's books. I've heard about him over the years, and I've heard a lot of people say that His vampire novels are very interesting, but very, very dense. His Necroscope series is very, very long, and there's a lot of spin-offs as well. So I've been a little hesitant to get into his books, but I decided to go ahead and pick up all 3 of these, since these are all 3 books in his Psychomech trilogy, which I believe is a spin-off of the Necroscope series. This one is the first book. It is called Blood Brothers. Book number 2, The Last Aerie, I think. And the 3rd and final book in this trilogy, Blood Wars. Next are a few books by Fred Saberhagen. This is an author that is mostly known for sci-fi and fantasy, but he did write a couple of horror novels, mostly revolving around Dracula. He had his own series of Dracula books. Pretty long series. I think it ran for like 12 books. And I have a lot of those in paperback, but the last part of the series was released in hardcover. So I have a few of those. This one is Seance of the Vampire by Fred Saberhagen. I believe it's the 8th book in his Dracula series, as well as book number 9, A Sharpness on the Neck, and book number 10, A Coldness in Blood. This is another book that I am very excited to read because it's just such a fun book to flip through. And it is called Vampire, The Complete Guide to the World of the Undead. As you can see, this is a very nice coffee table book going over the history of vampires, and it has a lot of great illustrations throughout. And I like how some of the pages are tinted different colors. It makes it look like a silent film. It is just a beautiful book, and it looks like there's a lot of information here. And next we have a couple of first edition hardcovers of David Shoub. The first one being The Unborn, which was released in 1981. And here is a copy of his book called The Seeding. Next we have a very cool horror anthology. This one is called 100 Hair-Raising Little Horror Stories. It is edited by Al Sarantonio and Martin H. Greenberg. Wow, that's a mouthful. These books were published by Barnes & Noble Books, and I've been wanting to collect them for a while. I just think they're really nice books. They're all illustrated exactly the same on the dust jackets, so they look very nice together on a shelf. There's a couple more at that bookstore that I want to go back for, but I went ahead and picked up this one because I thought it's horror stories and that's right up my alley. Next is one of the few paperbacks that I have in this haul. It is called My Babysitter is a Vampire by Anne Hodgman. This is a children's book from the 90s, and it was only $2 originally, so they went ahead and told me that I could just have it, which was awesome. I also have a copy of The Sub, A Study in Witchcraft by Thomas N. Dish. This is a novel. That's all I know. It's just a book having to do with witchcraft. I also found a first edition copy of The Ceremonies by Ted Klein. Cold Heart Canyon, A Hollywood Ghost Story by Clive Barker. Now this one is not actually a horror novel, it's a mystery. I love mysteries as well, so I thought this one looked like it would appeal to me very much since it has Bela Lugosi as Dracula on the cover. This is called Never Cross a Vampire by Stuart Kaminsky, and it is a mystery from the Toby Peters series. Here we have Spook by Steve Vance. Never heard of this one either, so if you've read it, let me know how it is. Here are a couple of first edition hardcover books by S.P. Somtow. This is called Valentine, The Return to Vampire Junction, and Venita's Escape from Vampire Junction. Loving the covers on these. And here is a hardcover copy of Dangerous Girls by R.L. Stine. This is one I've been wanting to check out for a very, very long time. Next is a Del Abyss book that was published in hardcover. I did not know any of the books were published in hardcover. But here we go. This is called Skin. It is by Cath Kosha. Don't know exactly how to pronounce that, but she is the author who wrote Bad Brains and The Cipher, which are very, very collectible paperback books that I do not have copies of yet. But I found this one, so it's a good start. Next we have The Fungus by Harry Adam Knight. This is a first edition hardcover copy, very nice shape. The paperback edition of this is very, very popular. I see that cover everywhere, but that cover grosses me out. I can't look at it. It just makes me itchy for some reason. So I'm going to go with this cover. Here we have an anthology of werewolf stories called Werewolf, and this is by Bill Pronzini. Just thought this looked pretty cool. It is a book club edition, though I don't know if this book was ever published in a traditional hardcover format. The book club might be the only way it's published in hardcover. Same goes for this book here, Cat's Eyes by Lee Jordan. Book club edition, but I don't know if it was ever published in a regular hardcover. Maybe it was. Next we have a tiny little cemetery dance book. It is called The Circle, and it is by Bentley Little. They had a ton of Bentley Little books there, so I'm going to go back and pick up those. I've been hearing a lot of good stuff about his work, so here's a tiny little one. And here's a book by Andrew Niederman called The Solomon Organization. And here we have The Businessman by Thomas M. Dish, who I just realized is the author who wrote that other book I showed you, which I think was called The Sub, The Study in Witchcraft book. So this one looks really cool. I like the gravestone with the hand reaching out, very spooky. Here we have a book by Frank De Filita, I think that's how you say his name, and this is called Golgotha Falls. It is by the author who wrote OGRE, which I remember seeing the movie of, but I have never read the book. I just thought this looked kind of cool with the weird goat guy on the cover. Here is an adult novel by Christopher Pike. Most of you know he wrote a lot of young adult back in the 80s and 90s, but he did write a couple of adult novels. This one is called The Cold One. I believe it's about vampires, I'm pretty sure. Here's one called I, Vampire, Interviews with the Undead, edited by Gene Stein and Forrest J. Ackerman. That is the Forrest J. Ackerman, who is the founder of Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine. And this just looked really cool. This is an anthology of vampire stories, and at the beginning of each story, there's a really nice little title page. Next is The Red Church by Scott Nicholson, as well as Love in Vain, 20 Original Tales of Vampire Erotica, edited by Poppy Z. Bright. Now, I don't do erotica. I don't typically read it, but I have heard some great things about Poppy Z. Bright, and I flipped through and saw that this includes some great authors. There's Norman Partridge, who's a really good author. He wrote a book called Dark Harvest, which was a nice Halloween story. There's also Cath Kosha. There is Nancy Holder, David B. Silva, as well as Douglas Clegg, Steve Resnick Tim. And there's Brian Hodge, Elizabeth Engstrom. A lot of really nice authors are included. So we'll see how this goes. Not much for erotica, but I'm hoping there's a little more to the stories in this book other than vampires having sex. And because I picked up that one, I also picked up Love in Vain 2. And this includes a story by Neil Gaiman, which I thought was pretty cool. So we'll see how that goes. And the last book that I picked up from the store is not a horror novel. This is called Robo Apocalypse by Daniel H. Wilson. This is a science fiction book, which I believe is about a robo apocalypse, as the title suggests. Just thought it looked cool. And also, just before filming this video, I received a package of a couple of horror paperbacks that I got from a store on Etsy, and I'm very excited about them. So the first one here is called Child's Play. It is by Sal Conte. And this is a book that was published by Leisure in 1986. I've always loved this cover. I've always wanted a copy, and I finally saw that one was posted on the store on Etsy, so I picked it up, as well as a Ruby Jean Jensen book, which are very hard to come by. This is called The Living Evil. As you can see, it's so nice. Unblemished spine, first edition. Very happy with this one, even though it cost me about $15. It was worth it. So those are all of the books that I bought. I am so happy with everything I got. I just need to find out how to get it all on my shelves, which I will figure out. I will. And then I'm going to go back to that store and get even more. I shouldn't, but I'm going to. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe. And please, please, please share this video. Sharing really, really helps. Believe me, it really does. So if you can share it, retweet it, show your friends, I don't care. Sharing it is what gets the word out there, and it helps this channel grow. And until next time, later creeps.